Is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday edition of the Stokastic NHL Strategy Show. I am your host, Josh Harris. Happy New Year's, everybody. I, for one, am fucking happy 2025 is over. Rough end to my year. Hopefully, I can reclaim some stuff in 2026, but we do have another 6-game slate here tonight. Lots of teams on back-to-backs. There are a fair bit of expensive lines here tonight. Not many in the mid-range, but joining me to break it down, Slim Cliffy, what's going on?
Yeah, not a whole lot. Happy New Year, everybody. Hopefully you guys aren't too hungover. It was a pretty interesting night last night. Wasn't a whole lot going on until Colorado hit the ice. And then Colorado put up 4 goals before the first television break against St. Louis. Valery Nichushkin ended up with a hat trick. Colorado won 6-1. You know, McKinnon plus the second line. We talked about it a lot on the show yesterday. That was an absolute hammer last night. Edmonton fell on their face at home against Boston. Buffalo won their 10th in a row. They are now officially in a playoff spot. It is January 1st, 2026. Buffalo is in a playoff spot. Where were you when? Pretty incredible run from them. So, interesting slate last night. Like you said, a lot of teams on back-to-backs. I think 5 of the 12 teams on tonight's slate are on back-to-backs. So, we should have a good idea of the goalie starting, but there's always that concern about line changes, lineup changes. Guys may got nicked up and then take a day off. So as always, pay attention to the Discord, see what new line combinations might come. But yeah, it's an interesting night considering the pricing on some of these lines. We'll get to them one by one, but it does seem like a stars or scrubs night, which is kind of interesting when you look at the defensive options.
Yeah. And before we get into the slate, with the site going down and the new site coming up, the affiliate stuff is a little bit broken right now, but we do have a promo code for you, promo code PuckLuck, that does track for our affiliates, and it will also get you 15% off of any subscription on the site, whether it's hockey, MMA, NFL, NBA, whatever your heart desires, but it does support us directly, and we thank you for that support. But let's get into this slate, and we'll start off with Cliffy's Habs with a 2.6 total heading into Carolina. The Hurricanes have a 3.4. Montreal going Suzuki, Caulfield, Texier, Slafkovsky, Kapanen, Demidov, Danault, Bolduc, Anderson. I thought I was in like 2014 for a second and forgot that he is back on the Habs. Carolina going Aho, Svechnikov, Ehlers, Blake, Stankov, and Robinson, Stahl, Martinook, Carrier. So right before we went on the air, you're like, I'm kind of surprised that Montreal only has a 2.6 total. And I was like, yeah, well, Texier is on the top line, not Slafkovsky. And then I got a nice I forget the word, but you're like, he looks good, man. I still think, like, obviously Suzuki and Caulfield's numbers with and without Slafkovsky over a fairly large sample is fairly significant. I remember being a Texier guy a few seasons ago before he went over to, I think, Europe somewhere for that one season. But, they're only, what are they? That top line, 16,900, 7% top two, 4.4% projected ownership. It's just like they're kind of priced in no man's land for this slate, and that's kind of an issue. They are a nice pivot off Nashville chalk, which we'll get to later. Carolina, they're not the defensive team they were seasons ago. Pyotr Kochetkov is out for the season. He has been their best goalie. Brandon Bussey has been unbelievable, but like goalie, like any goalie, even Jonas Johansson can go on a streak like Bussey here. I don't know if he's a legit guy. Goalies are aliens. We just don't really know. But the point I'm trying to get at is like they're going to see a lot of Aho, Svechnikov, Ehlers. And, I'm not totally convinced that they're going to be an excellent defensive line. Ehlers isn't the greatest defensive player. Jarvis is a much better defensive winger than Ehlers is. So I think it's a pretty, I don't want to say great matchup, but it's not a bad one by any stretch of the imagination. Like obviously Slavin's out and they're going to see a fair bit of that Walker-Nikishin pairing, which is fine. But like Jacob Slavin legit might be the best defensive defenseman in the NHL. So, I don't mind them at 16.9. I wish they are a little bit cheaper, even with Texier at whatever his really cheap price is, because he's not on the power play. But, I'll take Cliffy for his word because he watches a lot more Habs hockey than I do when he says Texier has looked really good. So I don't mind that line. The second line, listen, like I know you get Demidov and Slavkovsky on the top power play unit. I don't know. Like they're not controlling the play. They're not creating a ton. They are scoring. They aren't great defensively. So that's an issue for a line that's going to see, some stall matchups, some Aho matchups. You know what I mean? So it would probably be the top line. I think, doing a one-off Demidov or one-off Sapkowski is fine, but I probably stick to the top line if I'm using Canadiens. They're not my favorite line on the night by far. I prefer the Carolina side. For $2,200 more than the Montreal top line, you can get the Carolina top line. Svechnikov, Ehlers, they're not fully correlated, which is kind of a bummer, but like that's been Nikolai Ehlers' MO since he came into the league, not getting power play one time for reasons beyond our comprehension. But
well, he is top power play. They do that thing where Jordan Stahl starts, takes the face off or whatever, then he changes and Ehlers jumps on.
Yeah, unless they win the face off and they set up, which is annoying. So like, yeah, he gets some time. They have a 12.5 top two, 7.9% projected ownership. It's a good power play matchup. Just Montreal's been taking a fair share of penalties recently. It's just a question of in that range, right? Because from 18.9, really we'll say like 17.9 to 20,900. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines. Just a matter of which one you really want to prioritize. And this line is kind of middle of the road by top two. It is a good spot for them. So I do kind of like them. I'd probably I know there isn't great power play correlation, but I'd probably go to Stankov and Blake and Robinson. Like I know Eric Robinson isn't a household name, but like when he's on the fourth line with Taylor Hall, they have been really, really good. So like just because it's a name you don't super recognize, like he is actually he's not going to burn you being there. You can leave him off if you want, do a two-man of Stankov and Blake. That's 8,700 for the two of them. They get middle to bottom six matchups of the Habs, which is advantageous for them. You're getting a massive discount from the top line. So, while I do like Carolina 1, I think Carolina 2 definitely in play as a filler. Obviously, if you want to super cheap, if you're power play stacking something expensive, you could do two-man of Stahl Martinook. So, I do prefer the Carolina side, but I don't think you should overlook Montreal 1.
Yeah. I'm kind of a different mind on Montreal. Like I'm not super into the top line here. Like again, I do think like Texas, this is 18th game for Texier tonight. I think out of the previous 17 games, I think I've watched 16 of them. Like he has looked good. He has the skill to play with Caulfield and Suzuki. Problem is like since Jarvis went down, they've been using the Stahl line more in the shutdown matchup, right? And the last 15 games for that stall line, 43 shot attempts against, 2.2 expected goals against. It's pretty brutal. Like, they are not super elite defensively, but well above average. I don't mind Montreal one just because at under 17K with positive leverage, Suzuki is still playing like 22 minutes a game. Even Caulfield's getting in the high teens. Texier with that top line matchup, like, he's not going to play the Caulfield minutes, but he's going to get 15 minutes. Like, it's not bad. Problem is like, not only do they see Stahl, but with Bussy starting, like, it is a difference between Frederik Andersen starting and either Bussy or Kochetkov when he was healthy. Like, 23 starts between Bussy and Kochetkov. They've given up 41 goals. 51 goals. Anderson gave up 54 goals in 16 starts. Like, it's just a chasm of a difference because Carolina still does limit off shots against, just not shot quality necessarily. So I don't mind Montreal one. Going to be honest, like, if I'm paying up, if I'm going to 16,900, like, I'm probably just paying like an extra 1,000 and going to play something from like Detroit or Dallas or something like that. Like, I honestly have more interest in the Montreal second line. Here's the thing, that Montreal second line was put together early mid-November. And if you look at Montreal's schedule at that time, it was absolutely brutal. Like, Utah, Los Angeles, Dallas, Washington, Toronto, Utah, Vegas, Colorado amongst a 10-game stretch. Like, it was just a murderer's row. 15 games since then, that Montreal second line, 60 shot attempts, 3 expected goals per 60, actual goals way higher than that. They're getting good ice time too, because Montreal is basically like kind of stopped playing its fourth line. They're doing that thing that the Los Angeles Kings typically do, which is roll 3 lines and then the fourth line gets like 8 or 10 minutes maybe. That's what Montreal has been doing lately. So that second line has been skating 17 to 19 minutes a game, especially because Demidov and Slafkovsky are getting ice time. So the offense has certainly come around a lot since they got out of that brutal West Coast road trip. They're getting 17 to 19 minutes a night. They're priced under 15K. You get 2 out of the 3 guys on the top power play unit with positive leverage. They're just in a weird spot at 14,800. It's like, what do you pair with them? Like, maybe one of the Detroit lines maybe, or one of the Dallas lines maybe, like something like that. But if you have any interest in Pittsburgh or Winnipeg, they're too expensive unless you want to double punt your defenseman or something. So I do like Montreal too here, especially where they're going to miss the Stahl line. And then once you get to, the Aho line is not good defensively in any iteration, especially without Seth Jarvis. So I don't mind Montreal 2 here. It's really the only line I have interest in from the Habs side. On the Carolina side, for me, like, I think the Stahl line is kind of fine if you need a complete punt here. Like, they do generate a ton of shots. I would probably just go like 2 of 3, like Stahl and Martinook or something like that. Just a 2-man. Like, I probably wouldn't just full 3-man stack them. It is probably Carolina one that I would go to here, just because you're going to avoid the Suzuki matchup completely. You're going to get the depth defense pairs. The second line has been a lot better offensively. They're also still not very good defensively. Like, they're the definition of trading chances. So, if I do think that Carolina top line is in play at 19,100, especially where they're perfectly correlated. The Carolina power play has 11 goals in 14 games since they started doing that Jordan Stahl starting, as the center and then changing it 10 or 20 seconds in. They have 11 goals in 14 games. Like, if you average that out over the course of a full season, it is a huge power play season, like over 60 goals. So, where Montreal does take penalties, Carolina's been drawing 3.2 power plays per game over the last 5 weeks. It's the 6th most in the league. Montreal's penalty kills, nothing to write home about. I honestly don't mind Carolina one here. Like, if you don't want to pay up for the more expensive Pittsburgh, Winnipeg stacks, those types of things, but you are looking to play an expensive line, and there are a lot of them on the board here tonight. A Carolina top line at 19,100 seems fine. Here's my issue with Carolina. They're not getting a lot of ice time. They're getting, honestly, similar ice time to Montreal 2. 15 minutes for Ehlers, give or take. 17 minutes for Svechnikov. Like, they might play less than anybody on Montreal's second line. And then Aho up around like 19 minutes or something like that. It's not a lot of ice time for a line that's 19,100. So I do like them. Yeah, especially in that price range. Like, it depends where else you might want to go. Maybe if you want to go Detroit or Dallas or something like that. I do like Carolina 1. Carolina 2, I think is fine here. I'm not super into playing a Carolina stack without both Svechnikov and Aho. So I think for me, in this game, it honestly goes factoring in price. It goes Montreal 2, sorry, then Carolina 1, and then I think Carolina 3 is fine if you need a super cheap filler.
Okie Tampa Bay Lightning with a 2.7 total heading into Los Angeles. The Kings have a 2.9. Avery in the chat. Tampa going hold on. No. Yes. Tampa going Point, Kucherov, Gonçalves, Hagel, Cirelli, Gensel. Kings going Kopitar, Kempe, Laferriere, Byfield, Moore, Fogle, Turcotte, Kuzmenko, Fiala. This is interesting because Kemper got activated off IR 2 days ago. I would assume he's going to start tonight. They wouldn't activate him if they weren't going to use him, I don't think. That's an upgraded net for them, even though Forsberg was really good while he was down. These Tampa lines are a bit wonky. Like, in a nutshell, right? Point, Kucherov, Gonçalves at 18,900 is a bit rough for me, right? Like, I'll never say no to a Kucherov one-off. But like Braden Point at 6,600 is a tough sell. Gage Gonçalves doesn't really do much for me, especially at 18,900, where you can get Hagel, Cirelli, Gensel for 19,900. That's the line I prefer, but the problem is they're 19,900 against the Kings, which is a tough matchup. Now, I would assume they're gonna miss Doughty, Mikey Anderson for the most part, which is kind of a big deal. But 19,900 without Kucherov is a tough pill to swallow, especially when you have the Carolina top line we just talked about for 800 less. You know, you got Detroit for 2K less. There's a Dallas line for 2K less. You got a Matthews line for like 2,500 less. And then for a little bit more expensive, you have, you know, Winnipeg and Pittsburgh. So they're kind of, it's like, if it was almost any other matchup than the Kings on the road, I think they'd be a good play. Now, if I was 20 maxing or 150 maxing, they're coming in projected under 1%, and they have been really, really good this season. And the iteration of the Byfield line right now, it's a small sample, but they aren't anything special defensively, and they don't see Doughty, Mikey Anderson. So, you know, I would probably have some in MME. I just don't think I can prioritize a second line for almost 20K on the road in LA. So, you know, I think Kucherov one-off is fine. My favorite line to stack from Tampa would be that second line, but for the reasons I just mentioned, I'm probably going to pass in single entry. On the LA side, I think it would be that top line. Kempe, Laferriere, Kopitar, 14,900. Like, it's not a filler by any means, but you can fit them with the Dallases and the Detroits if you wanted to. You know, they've been controlling the play. They aren't creating a ton, but Kopitar lines historically have never really generated a ton. They've been scoring, which is what matters. They're fully correlated on a unit, whatever that means. They're going to see, you know, I would assume they see a fair bit of that Point, Kucherov, Gonçalves line, which, like, doesn't scare me at all. You know, Vasilevsky's had a very good season, but, you know, I don't mind that Kempe, Laferriere, Kopitar line, 14,900, 6.8% top two, 9.9% projected ownership, a little bit of negative leverage, nothing to be scared of. That second line, Byfield, Fogle, Moore, under 10K, coming in at 10.2% projected ownership with a lot more negative leverage. That doesn't really interest me too much. There's another line under 10K if we're going to get there to that. If you need one, I prefer more. If you wanted to go down to that third line, do a 2-man of like Kuzmenko, Fiala, I guess that's fine. But really, it would be LA1 for me. I think depending on your build, I don't mind them in single entry. On the Tampa side, like outside of Kucherov one-off, I think it's MME only.
Yeah, I'll start on the Kings side. The Byfield line, 2.8% top 2 stack, ownership projection over 10%. Like, you're asking me to play a mega chalk Los Angeles Kings line with Warren Fogle and Trevor Moore. Like, that's a pretty easy pass for me. Fiala, Kuzmenko, Turcotte, like you said, 11,300. I think like they're passable as a filler. Tampa did play yesterday. Vasilevsky started yesterday, so it's going to be Jonas Johansson. Like, that does matter quite a bit for me. You do have to give it up to Jonas Johansson. He hasn't been terrible this year. He's actually been pretty close to league average, which is about all you can ask for from a backup. But the difference between him and Vasilevsky has still been a half goal per game. Like, that still matters. But I'm not playing a mega chalk Quentin Byfield line. Like, I'm just not doing that. Fiala, Kuzmenko, Turcotte. Like, it's kind of interesting. I was looking at Fiala and Turcotte together. They've actually been kind of fine. 74 shot attempts, 2.9 expected goals in nearly 60 minutes together. Like, that's not bad. Especially when you're shooting against Jonas Johansson. Like, they're cheap enough where if you need a cheap filler, I'm fine with Kings 3. What's interesting to me is the Tampa Bay side here. Because as you mentioned, I imagine Kucherov and Point run into that Doughty-Anderson pairing quite a bit. And if you look at Doughty and Anderson at home this season, 1.9 expected goals against, 46 shot attempts against per 60. Like, it is just a nightmare for opposing top lines. Braden Point has not been good this year. It's funny, you mentioned in the Discord, kind of surprised that Point made the team. It's one of those things, like, if the team was the Olympic team, if the team was named 3 months ago, like, nobody would bat an eye. Braden Point has not been good this year. I was looking at some of the, like, his expected goals driving metrics are bad. His tracking data is down quite a bit. Like, I think his zone entry rate is down, relatively speaking, like 20% compared to the prior 2 years. Like, it's not good. So that, Kucherov and Point are going to run into that top pair quite a bit. It makes me like Tampa too. And that Tampa second line, they also don't have a big sample, just under 55 minutes, but their offensive numbers are huge, like monstrous, like Colorado top line type stuff. In that small sample, they've all been skating between like 18 and 21 minutes. Here's the problem. This is a great power play spot for the Lightning. Tampa has been drawing 3.2 power plays per game over the last 5 weeks. It's the 7th highest rate in the league. Comparatively, the Los Angeles Kings have been giving up 3.6 power play opportunities to the opponent per game over the last 5 weeks. It's the 2nd highest rate in the league and the highest on the slate here tonight. Over the course of the season, they've given up the 4th most power play opportunities per game. The penalty kill itself is about league average, if not worse. Bottom 8 over the last 5 weeks, below average over the course of the full season. This is a really good power play matchup for the Lightning. Tampa 2 has one guy on it on the top power play unit. Like, that's kind of the issue here. I honestly kind of like that Tampa second line because 7.2% ownership, top 2 stack, 0.8% ownership. They have insanely high positive leverage here. It's just that, like you said, do you leave Kucherov off and make it and only have one guy on the top power play unit? Or do you like make it a different stack and take off Brandon Hagel and put on, Oliver Bjorkstrand for more of a power play stack? Like, you save 3,300 there. All of a sudden you don't have Brandon Hagel in your Tampa Bay power play in your Tampa stack, which is kind of frightening. You still don't have Kucherov. If you take Hagel out and you put Kucherov in, that line is over 22K now. Like, that's just kind of a problem. It's like, this is a really good power play spot, but by far their best offensive 5-on-5 line is the second line, and they are in a decent matchup, all things considered, at 5-on-5. Just there's only one guy on the power play. I do like the idea of a Jake Gensel one-off. I'll say that much, because he is the guy that is going to get good 5-on-5 matchups. Like the Kings without Doughty and Anderson on the ice, their expected goals against goes up almost 40%. It is night and day between having that pairing and any other pairing on the ice. So like it is a good matchup for Tampa too. I just want more power play guys. Maybe I just play the Tampa second line and just add in Bjorkstrand for the hell of it. Well, not for the hell of it. He's on the top power play, but he's only 3,500. You get, you can keep Brandon Hagel. If you want to take off Hagel and put in Kucherov, you can do that. I wouldn't take out Cirelli and put in Point, like that's for sure. I really do like Tampa 2 here. They're my favorite line on the Tampa side. It's just I would figure out a way to make it somewhat more of a power play stack. So in that sense, they'd have to be your first lineup in. It's just what you want to put with them. On the Kings side, like it's Tampa, it's Kings 1. It's Kempe, Laferriere, Kopitar. Like you were saying, they're not creating a lot. I mean, big surprise. Here's a Los Angeles line with a lot of shot attempts, but the expected goals are low. I mean, that's been the case for like 15 years now. But they are perfectly correlated on the power play. Kings have been about league average drawing power play opportunities. The Lightning have been giving up a ton of power play opportunities. The Lightning have given the 4th most power play opportunities per game in the league over the last 5 weeks, 5th most in the league over the course of the season. Now the power play or their penalty kill has been good. Don't get me wrong, but it's still Jonas Johansson starting, and it's kind of why I'm not super in on Montreal 2. If you want to play Montreal 2 for very low ownership, I think that's fine. If you're kind of ownership agnostic, I'd just straight up rather play Los Angeles 1 for an extra $100. So I do like Kings 1 here. They're my favorite line in this game, especially with Johansson starting. But like I said, I really do like Tampa 2. I would just try to figure out a way to get in Bjorkstrand, maybe add Darren Radish. Maybe you take off Hagel, put in Kucherov, something like that. I would have to get at least more than just one power play guy in my Tampa stack.
Yeah, and like it's not like you get a discount with Radish anymore since Hedman got hurt again. He's 6,200. It's just like brutally expensive. Detroit Red Wings with a 3 total heading into Pittsburgh. The Penguins have a 3.4. Detroit played last night. I believe they won. I don't even remember yesterday already.
Yeah, it was Winnipeg.
Right. Oh, yeah, with Hellebuck in that. Detroit didn't change any of their lines, so they're going to run back, I would assume. Larkin, Raymond, Finney, DeBrincat, Kane, Kopp. Pittsburgh going Crosby, Rust, Raquel, Novak, Wayne Gretzky, and Anthony Mantha. And then Kindle, Rucker, McGrodery, and Yegor Chinnikov, who is min price. It is, one, it's been a seller's market for sure for these trades. But, like, people who are new to DFS or new to NHL DFS, seeing Yegor Chinnikov play like 9 minutes on the 4th line for Columbus and get healthy scratched and see him get like a 2nd and a 3rd round pick. This dude is a legitimate good offensive player. He was probably, by their metrics, one of Columbus's best offensive players. They just were moving on from him. I think he's going to fit in well on that 3rd line. We'll have to see what happens when, Malkin comes back. But I'll start on the Detroit side. I think this is a pretty good matchup for Detroit 1. I know they're back-to-back on the road. But, we've talked about it for years. Crosby and Rust, with almost anyone, play pond hockey at best. You add in Raquel there. They're just really rough defensively. I think this is an advantageous matchup for Detroit 1. 17,900, 13.4% top 2, 8.7% projected ownership. That's, you're getting positive leverage on a 6-game slate there. You could turn it into a power play stack with leaving off Finney and adding in Kane, right? And that'd still be under 20K. But, if you did it with DeBrincat, then you're looking at like 21,700, I believe. It's fine, but I'm also fine with just leaving Finney there. He hasn't been awful. It's a good 5-on-5 matchup. It does kind of suck, stacking Detroit without DeBrincat. But then if you want to do the second line, it sucks stacking Detroit without Larkin and Raymond. So you're kind of, at that point, you just kind of take the better 5-on-5 line. And I think, I know that Kopp, Kane, and DeBrincat have been really, really good offensively. But I think Larkin, Raymond, Finney are in the better 5-on-5 matchup. I'm fine with the second line. The problem is they're kind of priced right there with Montreal, with Nashville, and it's just like second line. It's kind of in a weird spot. I'm fine with turning the top line into a power play stack. I'd be more likely to turn the top line into a power play stack than the second line. I want Larkin and Raymond. If I have the salary, I'd go DeBrincat. If I needed a little bit cheaper, I'd go Kane. So that's where I'm at on the Detroit side. On the Pittsburgh side, I think the Pittsburgh top line has the highest top two of the night. 26.5% top two, 18.7% projected ownership now, back-to-back on the road for Detroit. The top line for Pittsburgh is fully correlated. They're not controlling the play at 5-on-5, though. And I get it. Crosby and Rust, if they can gain the zone, are going to be completely fine. But 20,900 for that, when you have, Winnipeg on the board, you have that Tampa second line we just talked about. I don't know if I want to play Pitt 1 here at that price. So I'm probably looking down the lineup a little bit. I think the second line, Brazeau, Novak, Mantha is interesting. Like Anthony Mantha's continued to build off his comeback season last year. I think, if you're doing expensive stuff, a two-man and Novak Mantha, just even a Mantha one-off because he's on the top power play is completely fine here. That line's coming in at 4.1% projected ownership, and they're going to see, they're going to avoid that Seider-Edvinsson pairing. Once you get past them, it's just a who's who of who for Detroit, you know what I mean? So I don't mind that second line. The third line is really interesting to me because Kindle and Rucker McGrodery have been really good together. You throw a player like Yegor Chinnikov into that mix, there's not a huge need for a $9,300 line here. But if you are power play stacking Tampa, your power play if you're even like power play stacking one of the other expensive like Winnipeg or something like that, I think you can take a two-man. I don't know how much Yegor Chinnikov is going to play. That's the one issue. He is min price. I think, a Kindle Chinnikov, Kindle McGrodery two-man, I think is fine. I'm not saying let's just run out and slam in Pitt 3 and build around them. But if you are power play stacking, I think I much prefer this line under 10K than the Byfield line. So I think I prefer, all things being said, Detroit 1 is my favorite line in this game, Detroit power play stack. Pitt 1 completely fine here. I just don't know if I want to spend the 21K. And I do like Pittsburgh depth.
Yeah. Just on Chinnikov quickly, like if you are new to NHL DFS, like in the 23-24 season, Chinnikov led Columbus in goals and points per minute at 5-on-5. Led them. The next season, he started the year with like 7 points in 5 games. He had like 10 points in the first 12 games or something like that. Then he got hurt, missed like 3 months, came back for the last 6-8 weeks of the season, whatever it was, wasn't good. And then just never kind of found his footing again in Columbus. So to start this season. So this is a guy who, looking at his tracking data in the past, has had some pretty good zone entry numbers and stuff like that. Like he does have skill. Like there's a reason why Pittsburgh had to pay second and a third round pick to trade for him. He's not just some kind of schmuck. It's just a matter of like, we're 3 months into the NHL season. The season's half over. He hasn't played very much in the first 3 months. Like what kind of game shape is he in? Like Josh said, like how much is he actually going to play here? Just because you might want to power play stack Tampa Bay or Winnipeg or something like that. Dallas, especially later with Chicago on the board. You might need a really cheap stack tonight. I think Pittsburgh 3 is certainly one of the ones that you can play, especially like you were talking about the Detroit depth. When Detroit's on the road this season and they have Larkin and Seider on the ice, 2.1 expected goals against. When they have Larkin and Seider off the ice, it's 3.2 expected goals against. Like, it's literally 50% worse. It is a really good matchup for the Pittsburgh third line. It's just a matter of, does Chinnikov play 9 minutes? You know what I mean? Like, that's just kind of the concern. I mean, I do like Pitt 2 again. They had a monster game the other night out in that 5-1 win. 55 minutes together, 3.3 expected goals, 63 shot attempts per 60. Mantha's still in the top power play unit. Justin Brazeau's at 1.6 expected goals, individual expected goals per 60 this year. I know he missed it, a month or so or whatever it was, but like you said, Wayne Gretzky can't be stopped. I do think those are both fine filler lines. I have more interest in them than I do the Pittsburgh top line. Like you said, they might run into Moritz Seider quite a bit because they, just out of necessity, they're getting used in a shutdown role. Seider and Larkin play about 50% of their ice time together when they're on the road. So they're going to run into Seider a fair bit. The other thing is Pittsburgh has a really good power play, but Detroit just doesn't take penalties. Fifth fewest, tied for the fourth fewest, in the league over the last 5 weeks. Below average time shorthanded per game over the course of the season. So it's not really a great power play spot for Pittsburgh. If I'm paying up for a super expensive line, I probably just go to Tampa Bay, maybe do something with Dallas, some sort of power play stack there. Like there are just other spots I'd rather go. So for me, it's about the Pittsburgh depth. I prefer the second line over the third line just for less ice time concerns. But if you do need a sub 10K line, I think Pitt 3 is fine. On the Detroit side, this is a situation where I'm fine just straight up playing Detroit 1 or Detroit 2. And the reason for that is the Penguins do have a fairly good penalty kill, right? Over the last 5 weeks, it's been about league average, but over the course of the season, a fringe top 10 penalty kill. Pittsburgh doesn't take a ton of penalties. They're about league average in that sense. The Red Wings last year drew a ton of power play opportunities. That's not been the case this year. They've been about league average over the course of the season. They've been, I think, 8th lowest time shorthanded per game over the last 5 weeks. So they're not drawing the same amount of power play opportunities. So they only get a couple cracks on a power play against a Pittsburgh penalty kill that's been top 10 this season, or right around the top 10. Like, it's not really a good power play spot. So I'm fine just playing either of the Detroit lines. I would lean Detroit 1 just for ice time, right? Finney, Larkin, and Raymond. Like, Larkin plays 21 minutes. Raymond's, 19 to 20. Finney's even been playing around 18 minutes a game over the last 5 games. He gets a ton of ice time at the top line. He gets good secondary power play minutes. I'm kind of fine with Detroit 1 here. It's 17,900. The issue with me is that I just think there are other lines I would rather play. We'll get to later in the slate, especially once we get to Dallas. So for me, in a nutshell, it's Detroit 1. It's the Detroit side that I kind of like best for the expensive lines. Like, I prefer them over Pitt 1. My preference is to go to Detroit 1. I kind of like the Pittsburgh second and third lines here and using them as fillers with Detroit back-to-back on the road, starting Cam Talbot. They're going to avoid Moritz Seider and Dylan Larkin for the most part. So it's just, how cheap of a filler do you need? I prefer Pitt 2. So Pitt 2 is my favorite line in this game again. It would go Pitt 2, Detroit 1, and then Pitt 3 is fine if you need sub 10K.
Winnipeg Jets, the 2.9 total, heading into Toronto. The Leafs have a 3.2. Winnipeg going Connor, Scheifele, Velarde, Perfetti, Iafallo, Tays. Toronto going Matthews, Nyes, Domi, Tavares, McMahon, Machelli, and then Cowan, Robertson, Roy. Oh, boy. A couple chalky lines in this game here. They're both top lines. Connor, Scheifele, Velarde, 20,200, 26% top 2, 20.6% projected ownership. Man, like if I know it's back to back on the road, but if Winnipeg's power play was rolling, this would be like, yes, let's do this. It still might because the Leafs are just trash defensively. Their penalty kill isn't good at all. The one thing that's been saving them consistently is Joey Woll. It's a good 5-on-5 matchup for them too. Like Matthews and Nyes and I just bit my tongue. Matthews, Nyes, and Domi, not very good defensively. I don't know. It's like I'm not really sold on either line above 20K here tonight. If I was going to pick one, Pitt one or Winnipeg one, it would be Winnipeg one. I don't know if I want to play them at almost a little over 20% when they're not controlling the play. Not that the Leafs top line are controlling the play. Like someone's going to have to control the play in this game, I guess. But it is a really good power play spot. Just the power play hasn't been great recently. So I think they're fine. It's just that 20% at 20,200 is a little high for me. Don't really have any interest in the depth of Winnipeg as much as the depth of Toronto sucks. It's just like, I guess if I had to, it would be the second line, but no. On the Leaf side, like I know it's not Hellbuck, which is, and it's a drop off to Comrie, but Comrie's been good. Matthews hasn't looked great. They're going to see the Morrissey pairing. That line hasn't been good. They're not creating. They're not scoring. They're 17,500, coming in with almost 19% ownership. I think if I was going to go to the Leafs, it would be that second line. That line has been terrible. But you do get Tavares and Michelli on the top power play unit for fairly cheap. They avoid, the Morrissey pairing. When Morrissey's and the top line's off the ice, the numbers for Winnipeg defensively just get way worse. So, they're 13,300. That's not awful. It's just like that line just hasn't been good, but you do get 2 of the 3 on the top power play unit. So I guess by default it would be Toronto 2. This is the game I wish that wasn't on the slate, besides any game with Nashville.
Yeah. So I'll start on the Winnipeg side. Like, here's the thing. It's kind of weird how the NHL season works. The Leafs started the season just an absolute horror show defensively. Then they add Troy Stecher off waivers. Okay. So like Troy Stecher, like a solid defenseman, an NHL defenseman, but certainly not an all-star. In the 20 games with Troy Stecher, the Leafs expected goals against at all strengths is basically in the middle of the league. 17th overall. It's actually kind of nuts. Like, and that includes the penalty kill. Like, that's at all strengths. At 5-on-5, they're 16th in the league. So, like, this isn't at least over over their last 20 games with Stecher in the lineup. I don't know if it's necessarily Troy Stecher being in the lineup or who Troy Stecher might be keeping out of the lineup. Either way, he's been really good defensively, and it's made the Leafs an average defensive team. On top of that, just because of injuries, I don't think Joseph Woll gets the credit for how good he's been. If you go back to the start of the 22-23 season, there are 53 goalies who have faced at least 2,500 shots. He is third in goals saved above expected per 60 amongst all those goalies. The only goalies higher are Connor Hellebuyck and Ilya Sorokin. He's been high. His goals saved above expected per 60 over the last 3.5 seasons is higher than Igor Shesterkin's. It is absolutely nuts how good he's been. He has a .923 save percentage this season. So this is not a good defensive team, but at least been average over the last 6 weeks. And Joseph Woll, when he's healthy, it's kind of that Thatcher Demko thing. He's been a top 5 goalie. That's what worries me. And it's not like Winnipeg's power play has been pretty bad. What I will say is that with Nyquist, they've at least been above average. It's a far cry from what they were last year or even through the first month of this season, but being above average is a lot better than what it's been over the last, 8 weeks. So I guess Winnipeg 1 is in play, but if they're going to be 20% owned, like, it's just a pass. Like, I'd honestly rather play Pittsburgh 1 than Winnipeg 1 here, and I really don't want to play either line. And I have no interest in the depth. So I think for me, it's just kind of a general pass on Winnipeg in single entry. If they were 26% top 2 stack, 9% ownership, I think we might have a conversation. At 21% ownership, like it's just a pass. The Toronto side is really interesting because it is not Connor Hellebuck. It is Eric Comrie. I don't know if anybody remembers what Winnipeg, like, it's not like Winnipeg's been, world beaters over the last few weeks, but I don't think people realize what this team looked like with Eric Comrie in net, giving up 0.8 more goals per game with Eric Comrie starting than Hellebuck this season. And that's with Hellebuck not really playing like himself. The Toronto top line, 2.9 expected goals for per 60 this season. Before Matthews got hurt, he had 43 shots in his previous 10 games. Like, that's more of what we want to see from him. Matias Maccelli has actually helped the power play a little bit. Not like we ever shouldn't stack Toronto for the power play, but the Winnipeg penalty kill, it's night and day with and without Hellebuck. They're great with Hellebuck. They're terrible without him. I don't think that should really surprise anybody. I don't mind Toronto 1 here. I might almost be tempted to take off Domi and put Maccelli on and make it more of a power play stack, to be honest. But if I'm going to play a line that's going to come in close to 20% ownership in this game, it's Toronto 1. It's not Winnipeg 1. So I think Toronto 1 is firmly in play for me. Toronto 2 is, like, they're still interesting to me. Maccelli, McMahon, Tavares, you get 2 out of the 3 on the top power play unit. Maccelli and Tavares this season, 2.9 expected goals for per 60. It's the same expected goals rate as the top line. They just don't get a ton of ice time, but Maccelli has 4 points in his last 6 games. Now that he's getting top power play time, I think at 13,300, that second line is very playable. If you're playing something like, one of the Dallas lines or one of the Detroit lines or Montreal 1, you want to play an expensive defenseman. Like, I think they're one of those lines that you put in, but it's Toronto 1 I like best in this game, then Toronto 2, and probably out on Winnipeg.
Dallas Stars with a 3.3 total heading into Chicago. The Bedardless Blackhawks, 2.6 total. Chicago going Bertuzzi, Burakovsky, Ryan Green, Donato, Dickinson, Mikheyev, Teravainen, Moore, Nick Lardis. Dallas going Hintz, Robertson, Bork, Rantanen, Johnston, Steele. Now, however, Duchesne did move up in the second half of that game and stayed there. So I wouldn't be shocked to see him stick there.
Well, I don't like, they've done that a lot over the last month where Steele, like, if they're up 2-0 in the second period, Steele will stay there. If it's a close game or they're losing, then they move up Duchesne. I don't know what you do about that.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's not a huge deal because I'm probably going to be looking to power play stack here anyway. Not that wins are super important for goalies, but I was looking at Spencer Knight. He has 2 wins since the end of November. Like, his start to the season was crazy. He's still been fine. It's just like the team in front of him has gotten worse. And, no Bedard certainly doesn't help. So for me on the Dallas side, if I was going to do a 5-on-5 line, it would almost certainly be Hintz, Robertson, and Bork. But this is a really, really good power play matchup. Dallas's power play has been absolute gas. So I'm just turning it into a power play stack. It's just a matter of what you want to do, right? Because Johnston was the first person in the NHL to get to 10 power play points. Mikko Rantanen's always involved. So, like, I almost want to do something like Johnson, Rantanen, Robertson, leave off Hintz. but I would just try to get as many power play guys in as I could with Dallas without sacrificing the rest of my lineup and having to play, Matt Rempe. You know what I mean? So like, it would be a Dallas power play stack for me, regardless of if it's Duchesne or Steele on that line with Johnston. I just want to get as many power play guys as I can. On the Chicago side, I don't have a ton of interest here. Dallas is back-to-back on the road, but it is going to be Jake Ottinger going. I don't really have a need to play that top line, Green, Burakovsky, Bertuzzi at 11,000 at 4%. Like, they've been fine, but they're going to, it's not going to be a great matchup. I think if I was going to do a Chicago line, it would be an MME. And it would be that Dickinson line. They are 9K, let you get in a expensive power play stack like Tampa or something like that. Do like a 2-man Dickinson Donato or Dickinson Mikheyev, something like that. So like I don't particularly love Chicago. I think if anything, it would be the Dickinson line and a Dallas power play stack.
Yeah, for me on the Blackhawks side, it's just that third line. It's only the Dickinson line. Dickinson, Donato, Mikheyev, 9K. They're coming in with a lot of negative leverage, 2% top 2 stack, 5% ownership. But if you are Tampa power play stacking or Winnipeg power play stacking or something like that, and you do need a sub 10K line, like along with Pit 3, I think this is a third line you can use. And they've been getting quite a bit of ice time without Bedard and Nazar, like 17, 18 minutes a game. And that third line of Dickinson, Donato, Mikheyev, 71 shot attempts, 3.6 expected goals per 60. They've been really, really good. So like I kind of do like them as a filler. It is Chicago 3 easily on that side. I was looking at Ryan Green's numbers without Connor Bedard. 45 shot attempts, 2 expected goals per 60. It's just horrific. There's just nothing there. So, and I'm not playing that Oliver Moore line. So, especially considering Chicago 3 is only $700 more expensive. So it's the Chicago third line I like best on that side. The question is what to do about Dallas, because I think this both is and isn't a good power play spot. It is a good power play spot because the Blackhawks do take a lot of penalties. Over the last 5 weeks, 3.3 times shorthanded per game. It's the 8th most in the league. Over the course of the full season, they're tied with Florida for the 2nd most time shorthanded per game. So they do give up a ton of power play opportunities, but their penalty kill is really good. Over the last 5 weeks, Blackhawks top 10 penalty kill. Over the course of the entire season, Blackhawks 6th by goals against per minute. Bedard and Nazar, like those, they aren't huge factors on the penalty kill for this team. So, like it's one of those things where I don't mind power play stacking, but for me, like where Rantanen and Johnston are gonna run into that Dickinson line, and they've been pretty good defensively, like Jordan Staal quality defensively this season as a line. And where Chicago does have a good penalty kill, like these two teams played each other like a week or two ago, and Dallas went 0 for 4 on the power play against them. Dallas's power play over the last 10 games, top unit, 77 shot attempts per 60. They're still scoring pretty well because they're shooting 32%. But their goals rate has gone down quite a bit to best in the league to, top 5, which is obviously still excellent. It's just not what it was 6 weeks ago against a very good penalty killing team. Like I think for me, I have interest in that Robertson, Hintz, Bork line just as a trio. Now they are coming in with more ownership, but they have nearly a 2x top 2 stack compared to the Rantanen line. They're not going to see much of the Dickinson shutdown matchup. They've been pretty good together. 63 shot attempts, 3.9 expected goals per 60. And if you look at the Chicago lines outside of Dickinson, top line 3.3 expected goals against. Like Brian Green isn't with Bedard. Second line of Moore and Teravainen, 2.8 expected goals against. Like those are pretty good 5-on-5 matchups for Robertson and company. So I think for me, it's Dallas 2 that I like best in this game. Robertson, Hintz, Bork, 17,900. Prefer them over the Johnson. And again, mentioned it on yesterday's show. Johnston and Rantanen aren't getting a ton of ice time, right? Like the last 5 games, the most used forward for Dallas has been Jason Robertson. It hasn't been Rantanen or Johnston. They're around 18, maybe 19 minutes a game. Those 22, 23-minute games are a thing of the past. So I like Robertson, Hintz, Bork here. Good 5-on-5 matchups. If they are coming with a fair bit of ownership, less ownership than Toronto, though, in a similar price range, more ownership than Carolina, similar price range. I would probably rather play Dallas and Carolina. I think I might still play Toronto instead of Dallas, but I do like Dallas too. They're my favorite line in this game. I also think Chicago 3 is playable if you need a super cheap filler.
Nashville Predators with a 2.8 total. Heading into Seattle, the Kraken have a 2.7. Nashville going Forsberg, O'Reilly, Stamkos, Evangelista, Haula, Bunting. Seattle going Stevenson, Tolvanen, Gaudreau, Eberle, Beniers, Kakko, McCann, Wright, Catton. Since Kakko went up with Beniers, they send them out against top comp, right?
No.
It's still Stevenson?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's really annoying. That's what I figured. I was just asking, hoping for a different answer. Forsberg, O'Reilly, Stamkos, 16,500, 15.3% top 2, 19.7% projected ownership. Chalk Nashville makes me want to gouge my eye with a soldering iron. The problem is Stevenson, Tolvanen, Gaudreau. 84 shot attempts against per 60, 4.55 expected goals against per 60, 2.1 actual goals against because Joey Decord is fighting for his life every game. I don't know why teams send Chandler Stevenson out against top comp. Like, he's getting run over worse than anyone in the NHL. That O'Reilly line in 100 minutes, 3.3 expected goals for. They're fully correlated. Now, they're not playing at a pace that I really love. It's kind of a slow pace, but it's such a good matchup. I don't think I'm going to play them because I'd rather fade Chalk Nashville and have them go off than play Chalk Nashville and have them bust. It's just a mindset thing for me. Like, I'd rather lose money to Nashville, one, by fading them than playing them. That's just the thing for me. I think it's just a really good matchup against Stevenson. Joey Decord has been excellent. So, it's just a choice for you. I don't mind Hall, Evangelista, Bunting. They have been excellent in 70 minutes together. They play at a very high pace. You get Evangelista on the top power play unit. Bunting is a shooter, which is you like to see. They're 10,100. You can take a 2-mana Evangelista Bunting or something like that and power play stack with them. They do have some negative leverage, but that's okay. On paper, the best play on the Nashville side is the top line, but you factor in ownership. I think I like the second line more. On the Seattle side, I don't want to play any Seattle. Like, none of these lines are good. I've seen them in the winning lineups the past few times they've been on the slate. But it's like 9% on the Chandler Stevenson line when they control the play at 37%. With a 3.2 top stack, no thank you. Eberle, Beniers, Kakko, creating under 2 expected goals for, not controlling the play at 5%. No thank you. Shane Wright numbers, awful. So I'm probably just out on Seattle.
Yeah. Should also note Nashville played yesterday afternoon in Vegas and Annunen started. So it's going to be Saros here tonight too. I think on the Seattle side, I hate to say it. I really do hate to say it. It's probably Tolvanen and Stevenson, Gaudreau. Hear me out. It's ice time, right? Like, those guys are pretty much the top line now. They're playing 19 to 21 minutes a game. So whatever else we might think of Tolman and Stevenson Gaudreau as a line, they're 11,200 getting like Detroit 1 minutes. So like that's kind of hard to ignore. Yes, there's a lot of negative leverage on them. They might push 10% ownership, but they are getting a lot of ice time. You do get Tolvanen and Stevenson on the top power play. And the Seattle top power play in its current iteration is up to like 50 minutes together. And they're at 10.7 expected goals, 9.5 actual goals per 60. Those are like substantially above average numbers. Like 10% above league average for a top power play unit. Like it's pretty good. Now, Nashville has typically had a good penalty kill, but Nashville's also taking a boatload of penalties, third most in the league over the last 5 weeks, 10th most in the league over the course of the season. Like Seattle, they're back-to-back on the road. Seattle might get 3, 4, 5 cracks at it here tonight. That line just needs one goal. One correlated goal, and you're fine. And if they get 2, then you're in business. And at 19 to 21 minutes a game, and they're gonna as they are bad defensively. There's no question about that. They're horrific. The Nashville top line is also at 3 expected goals against per 60. They're also bad. The only reason I don't want to play Seattle is they are really chalky. Their ownership is 3x their top 2. That is a lot of chalk to choke down. But if I'm going to play a super chalky filler line, playing one that's getting around, all 3 guys between 19 and 21 minutes a game, 2 guys on the top power play unit that's actually been good facing a team taking a ton of penalties, that's back-to-back on the road, that's probably as good as it can get, right? So I don't mind Seattle too if you do need a super cheap filler. I hate playing chalk Seattle. I hate it with a passion. I do think there are reasons to just kind of, choke down the chalk, especially those expensive, there are expensive lines not getting ownership that you would pair them with, right? Like if you play them with Carolina's coming in with single digit ownership. If you play them with some sort of Detroit stack, you're going to get single digit ownership. If you play them, especially with Tampa Bay, you're going to get low single digit ownership. So I think there's a way to dilute the super chalkiness of Seattle too. On the Nashville side, for me, I think Nashville too is playable. Don't get me wrong. I don't mind them. Evangelista Hall of Bunting, 10,100, 2% top 2 stack, 4.7% ownership. I don't mind them. If I'm playing Nashville, I'm probably just straight up power play stacking because their power play has actually been pretty good with Evangelista on the top unit, 10.3 goals per 60 at 5-on-5. Top of my head, that's about 20% better than league average for a top power play unit. Seattle's penalty kill is dog shit. Just straight up the worst in the league over the course of the season. Second worst in the league over the last 5 weeks. Things aren't getting better. This is and even worse is they're taking penalties. They've been about league average time shorthanded per game all season, which is the one thing that saved them last year. They didn't take a lot of penalties last year. This year, they're about league average with a terrible penalty kill. And like I said, the Nashville power play's been good. There's going to be chalk in this game. If you're on the Seattle side, there's nothing you can do about it. I think Seattle 2 is playable just because they get so much ice time, and it's not like it's a tough matchup against Nashville 1 back-to-back on the road. I do think there's a lot of merit to just straight up power play stacking Nashville. Top line, Evangelista, throw in Yossi if you want to, and then just be on your way because this is a great power play matchup for Nashville. And like I said, the power play has really turned itself around since they put Evangelista up there and left him there.
Yeah. Oh, chalk Nashville, chalk Seattle.
I mean, if there's any way that the first slate of 2026 should finish, it's a Nashville-Seattle late island game.
Let's talk about defensemen. 6K range, we have Seider, Heiskanen, Radish, Yossi. I think they're all fine. I'd probably go Seider 1, Radish 2, Yossi 3, Heiskanen 4, but it just really depends on who you're playing. I think you can correlate with all of them or one off. All of them. Heiskanen, I'd probably not one off, but the other three I would. I throw Lane Hudson there. He's 5,900. It's not the best power play matchup, and Noah Dobson's been ham. So, like, I'd probably go Sider 1, Radish 2, Yossi 3.
Yeah. Using Stokastic projections, Yossi has the highest projection, 14% ownership. Honestly, I think it's fine for a 6-game slate face in a great power play spot. I'm fine with just straight up one-offing Yossi. Radish is pretty interesting at 6,200. Like, he's still getting a boatload of ice time. Last 3 games, 25, 25, 26 minutes. Like, without Hedman and McDonough in the lineup, he's getting a pile of ice time. And I wrote about this at Dauber Hockey, where I write about season-long hockey today. I don't write there today. I mean, I did write there today, but I write there most days. In calendar 2025, there were 10 defensemen who averaged at least 2 points per 60 minutes in the NHL. One of them was Darren Radish. He had the same points rate as Victor Hedman, and I mean just ahead of him was Quinn Hughes. He legitimately was, on a per minute basis, was one of the 10 most productive defensemen in the NHL last year. And now he's getting 25 minutes a game, and he's in a pretty good power play matchup against the Kings. I like, if you don't want to play Tampa Bay and you have 6K or whatever, I do think there is some merit to playing Darren Radish here tonight. So it goes Yossi 1, Radish 2. The mid price range, like, just under 6K, there's not a lot I like. Like Josh Morrissey, I guess it's okay. But with the Winnipeg power play sucking ass, that really takes a lot of it gives Morrissey's DFS profile a big hit. Noah Dobson, I think, is kind of interesting just because he's blocked a pile of shots this year, and you're facing Carolina. Like, this is one of those games where maybe we look up and he has like 6 blocks or something. Not saying he will, but he certainly has a pretty good projection. In fact, if you look at the defenseman projected between 4 and 6K salary here tonight, he has the second highest, just behind Morrissey. So just throwing that out there. I'm not playing either Dobson or Morrissey here tonight. It's the 4 to 5K range that's interesting. Morgan Riley with Eric Comrie in net. There's no matchup concerns against Winnipeg. Vince Dunn, not a bad matchup at home with Nashville on a back-to-back. Sean Walker, again, at home against Montreal with no Slavin and no Gostisbehere. I don't mind Sean Walker. Thomas Harley. Listen, every single Dallas skater is in play against Chicago here tonight. But, Harley had a bad game last night. 4 goals against. He was on for all 4 goals against. Don't like seeing that if you're Team Canada management. But he's projecting well. Don't mind Harley. But for me, it really comes down to Riley, Dunn, or Walker in the mid-price range. Under 4K, like going back to Nikishin, I think makes a ton of sense. He has, I think it's, the 4th highest projection for any defenseman under 4K. Top power play unit for Carolina in a good power play matchup. I really don't mind him. Adam Larson, they said he's fine. He'll play tonight with no Montour. Larson gets good minutes. Keandre Miller, if you don't want to play Nikishin for whatever reason, is fine. Brady Shea from Nashville is projecting well. Under 3K, there's not a lot I like. Like Ben Sherrod again, whatever. Alex Vlasic playing 21 minutes for Chicago is fine. Nick Blankenberg always projects well for Nashville, and they're facing Seattle. So it is what it is. So I guess Sherrod, Vlasic, and Blankenberg. But I think for me, this is a night where if I'm not paying up for one of the big boys, I'm probably spending between 3 and 5K.
Let's talk about those freaks who live in between the pipes. I don't really like the top range here. Ottinger at 8,500 makes a lot of sense in cash games. If you have the space for him in GPPs, I think he's fine. Bussy's always interesting. Montreal is a really big favorite. He's been really good this season. I don't know. I just don't really want to spend 8,300 for him. I think Wohl and Decord at 8 and 7,900 make a lot of sense here. Joey Wohl has been excellent. Joey Decord has also been excellent. In the mid-range, UC Saros 7,500 sticks out to me. I guess Darcy Kemper would be fine if he starts, but what concerns me is how efficient Tampa can be sometimes. So I'd probably just go to Saros there. And for the cheapie, it would be Jakob Dobish against Carolina at 7,100.
Yeah, Joey Decord does have the highest projection at home against Nashville. I think it's fine. I would, if I have the salary, like if I make my lineup and I have 8,500, I'm playing Ottinger. Just go get me, hopefully 15 points and get the win. I think it's probably Joseph Woll for me. Like, the big concern playing Toronto goalies is the penalty kill, but it's not like Winnipeg's power play is anything special. I really do like Woll at 8K, so it's probably Woll or Ottinger for the expensive goalies. Artur Shilovs is projecting well against Detroit. I don't know, man. He started the season with a 25 save shutout against the Rangers. Since then, 3.3 goals against per game. Like, this is a guy with a career 883 save percentage. I don't think I'm going to slam him in. If I'm going for a cheap goalie, it's almost certainly UC Saros at 7,500 on the road against Seattle. And I'll mention Jakob Dobish. Like, he's had some bad games this year. Don't get me wrong. He's also had some really good games and stands to see a lot of shot volume from Carolina. So, Woll and Ottinger for the expensive guys, Saros and Dobish for the cheap guys.
We will not be here tomorrow. It's a small slate and it's a winter classic, so I think it's a split.
Yeah, it's I think that it's the classic in the afternoon and then 3 games tomorrow night.
Yeah. So we'll be back on Saturday. Look forward to that. Who you liking for your hat trick pick?
I mean, you know what? He's been pretty good lately. And I think he's a guy that's everybody's kind of forgotten about over the last 5 years, given the team that he plays for. I have a lot of respect for what he does. Jordan Eberle.
Nice. I'm going to go Anthony Mantha for some reason.
I mean, listen, we do like Pitt 2 here tonight, and you can never go wrong taking somebody against Detroit. Detroit, not exactly the most consistent team in the NHL over the last few years.
So we will see you guys on Saturday. Happy New Year, everybody. We'll see you in the Discord tonight. Good luck.
Good luck tonight, everyone.